You're live.
Game 6, Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins going head-to-head in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs here in the NHL. Guys, we'll break down that game, NHL sides, totals, props, and much more right here on PuckTime, powered by WagerTalk TV. We're also going to take a look at some other series prices for some of the teams that have already wrapped up their series and they know who they will be playing. But Carm, we have a big one tonight, Carm. It's in your neck of the woods, Toronto, Ontario, Bruins and Leafs. What do you think?
Andrew, I absolutely hate this game. How many times do you talk about the only game on the card and you hate it? I haven't even loaded a play up for clients, and I likely won't. I'm going to give my opinions on the show, and that's likely where it's going to stay. Even if I post anything, it's going to be what I'm talking about here. It won't be anything that goes against what I'm discussing here. I thought the Leafs were done in Game 5. They found a way without Austin Matthews to win that game, return back home. They haven't won in 7 straight. I think it's 7 straight playoff home games dating back to last season. So I don't know what to get from this team. I don't know what you're going to get from this team. As far as Austin Matthews is concerned, he was on the ice early this morning, working with their development skills team. So that's not the morning skate. He was out there early with them. The morning skate hasn't started. There are rumors from some beat reporters for the Leafs that Austin Matthews is, and these are rumors. You don't know. But the illness actually could be a concussion. He was taken out of one of those games period, tried to go on the ice prior to the morning skate, lasted 8 minutes on the ice. He wasn't put into concussion protocol. The team would have done that. So I kind of lean away from that. But it's being reported right now by, I think his name is Mark Masters, that Matthews is doubtful for tonight's game as well, too. He's likely not to play. When you talk about illness, you talk about people being sick. You talk about people having food poisoning. It lasts for hours. It's not something that has a lingering effect on you for a couple of days that you have to come back on the ice and then leave after 8 minutes. So I don't think it's anything to do with food poisoning. We will see what happens after the morning skate, which should be happening right now, or should have started right now. We'll see if he's out there and how long he stays out there. But it in all likelihood, Andrew, they've got to go it again without Matthews on the ice. I think the Bruins came back home, thought they were done. I thought they were going to have an easier game in Game 5 and salt this one away, and the Leafs put up a fight. And I expect the Leafs to put up another fight tonight. You and I were on the wrong side of the total. I was on the wrong side of the total. You and I were in disagreement on the total. You got it right in game 5. You said the under is a play. I like the over. I'm going to go with the over again in this one, Andrew. It sounds like a square type of play. I've looked at the player props. I can't find anything that I like. It's very rare. I can't find at least one player prop that I like, but I've either been vigged out of it, if that's even a word, or I just don't like the player props. The one that came the closest, William Nylander, because he's going to get a lot more ice time tonight for the Leafs, and his shot prop is at 3.5 minus 115. If I land anywhere, it's going to be on that one, Andrew. But I lean to the over here, and I've got the Leafs in a series bet plus 105. So would I love for the Leafs to win tonight? Yeah, absolutely. Send it back to Boston. We need a Game 7. Somewhere we need a Game 7. And this is a series where we could see it. The Vegas Golden Knights one could be another one where we see a Game 7. But that's about it, unless the Preds find a way to win at home as well, too. We need a Game 7. Let it be this one. So with that said, a little bit of bias on the Leafs to win tonight, but it's not going to be a play. I lean the over, and Willie Nylander, I might get to the window on that one.
Carm, when people move away for work, personal reasons, whatever it may be, and they pass away, usually they're flown back. Their ashes are flown back. They're flown back to where they are from for the funeral. The funeral is always in the hometown, and that's how it works for the Maple Leafs. Tonight's the funeral for the Maple Leafs. They got their fan base all excited. They won in Boston in Game 5, and now they're going to go back to Toronto and disappoint their fan base. That's how I feel about this game. It's going to be one of those games where you play the perfect game in Game 5. You shut down the Boston Bruins. You put a new goaltender in. Joseph Woll was a brick wall. He stood on his head, made 2 saves above expected. He saved 2 expected goals in his first appearance in the playoffs. He has been great. But when it comes down to it, Carm, the injured player theory, if we're going to use that, people use it all the time in the NBA, right? We saw it the other day in the NBA. Milwaukee Bucks, no Lillard, no Giannis still. What happens? The supporting cast comes out, puts forward a good effort. We see it all the time in the NFL. Starting quarterback out, backup quarterback comes in, the line moves. You take that team with the injured QB, they cover the point spread. And to me, you miss Auston Matthews for one game, and it looked to me like they were almost better. They were sharper. They weren't worried about getting him the puck nonstop. They played as a cohesive group. But now you have to miss Auston Matthews for a second straight game. And you look across all sports, NBA, NFL, it's usually the second game where a team really shows their true colors. Now, I was impressed by them, and I was happy to see a Game 6 here. But the thing is, Carm, they still only scored 2 goals. And that's the thing. I know some people will tell me a win is a win. And people know, look, I make fun of the Leafs during the regular season. I'm not being biased here. I've made money on the Leafs this series. I've made money against the Leafs this series, especially the player props. I've done well with them. But this is the thing. If they would have put up 4 or 5 goals last game and just absolutely had a great performance that way, I'd feel more confident. But ultimately, Carm, I'm on statmuse.com right now. These are the numbers for the Maple Leafs last several games played in the postseason. 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals. The last time they had more than 2 goals in a game that they lost was against Tampa Bay on the 24th of April, 2023. I mean, this is a team that during the regular season, they're nonstop a top 3 team goal scoring wise, a top 3 team power play wise. And yet we get to the postseason and somehow the magic number for them to get to is 3 goals. To me, that's a real serious problem. I lean to the Bruins here, but I'm going to go back to the under. If it ain't broke, I'm not going to try and fix it. I know that with all these chances being created, I like the overs as well with that stuff. And that's why I was taking it earlier in the series. But when it comes down to it, the goaltenders are playing well. And I could see this being another, 2-1, 3-1 game. I get it that things could change. Elimination game, third period. The Leafs are down 3-1. We're going to see the goalies pulled, and that's what could get it over. But at this point for me, I haven't seen much to convince me otherwise this team's going to wake up.
Yeah, and maybe that under gets a little bit better. Chris Johnston is reporting that Auston Matthews is not on the ice for the morning skate with the regular team. So that is obviously not good news for Leaf fans. It's another by committee, game by committee tonight where it's next man up type of thing. If he's not on the ice, if he was out there with the skills development team, then he's not on the ice with the actual team for practice and working on the power play, which the power play is 1 for 17 in this series. 1 for 17 in this series. If the Leafs lose tonight and they look back on where this series might have been lost, you might look at the power play. 1 for 17 for a team that was the second highest scoring team in the NHL this season behind the Colorado Avalanche. So we will see what comes of this. But him not being on the ice they're probably going to put the designation of game time decision. But if he's not on the ice, I just can't see him playing, Andrew. One other thing, just going off on a bit of a tangent. You talk about empty nets, and I know that you had to you had to sweat the under in the Dallas game. I sweat the over. And I can't believe I did not get there. 2-2 at the end of the first period when you have a 5.5, and then 3-2, and a couple chances at the empty net, 2 or 3 chances at the empty net. They couldn't get it. I didn't even need those chances at the empty net. When it's 2-2 and you have the over 5.5 after 20 minutes of play, get there, but it didn't. So that's my little vent. And good for you on hitting the under.
Carm, look, I needed one of those, man. I needed one of those. You know, like I actually stopped watching the game. After the first period, I was so frustrated. I threw my phone away and I started watching TV with the girlfriend. Started watching a show. I knew I was going to want to watch the games tonight. I got other stuff going on. I said, you know what? Tonight can be the TV night because I already lost my bet. And then we tune in like with 2 minutes to go in the third period. So it was definitely a sweat. Carmen, you mentioned about some props here. Really quick, one that I mentioned on the show last time out, and I'll say again, I really do like Bertuzzi over 2.5 shots on goal. It's only minus 125. He got it 4 of his last 5 games, and he did get exactly 3 in the last game. But, you know, he's been a huge part of the series. Him and Brad Marchand kind of going at it. But remember, Brad Treliving made the pickups and the trades that he did for the postseason. He didn't make those trades with Domi and Bertuzzi for the regular season. He picked up those guys for what they bring in the postseason. So, you know, one thing I like about Bertuzzi with his shot prop is compared to maybe a Nylander or a Marner, Bertuzzi isn't that picky with his shot selection. Like if he's close to the net, he'll get a shot off. He's not going to try and deke through a bunch of guys, make the fancy play. He'll just get the puck on net. So I do like that one. We got to bet some unders. We can't talk about only overs here, Carm. So we got to talk about the unders. Morgan Riley not to get a point. Channeling my inner Andy Lang here. Plus 110. The guys had a horrible offensive series. And if you look at it, Carm, why not look at guys to not have a point in this series? I just rattled off the numbers. We need to have a solar eclipse for this Maple Leafs team to get more than 2 goals in the playoffs. And we got a price plus 110 for a defenseman to not get a point. I feel like that's a really good price. You know, if this was like minus 130 or 140, I'm not getting to the window with it, but you're going to give me a plus 110 price for a guy not to get an assist or a goal. I think it's worth it. And last but not least, I got to throw this one in here. You can call it my East Coast bias, Carm, or you can call it just betting on the guy that's been playing well this series. Brad Marchand plus 185 goal scorer is pretty tempting for me for a guy having a pretty good series.
Yeah, Marchand's one of those guys you love to hate, Andrew. We say it every year. If he's on your team, you love him. If you're playing against him, you hate him. It's just one of those guys. It reminds me of back of the days of, like I always talk about, Kenny the Rat Linsman. These guys who got under your skin. That's when hockey was hockey. I enjoyed it so much better back then. Doesn't matter if you were the smallest guy in the team, you dropped your gloves as well too. Maybe Mitch Marner can do that tonight and drop those gloves instead of throwing them behind the bench. Andrew, so you and I are going to discuss. We're going to discuss the Carolina-New York Rangers series, and we're going to have some images. We're going to have some prices up. We're just going to throw out some futures. You guys can tag along. You guys can give us your opinion on what you think the Rangers series is going to be like. But before I do that, real quickly, Sports Memo, today at Sports Memo, it is $2 Thursdays at Sports Memo. And this one goes early. Dan Kaiser is the $2 guy over at Sports Memo. 79% MLB run. 2-0 yesterday, 14-6 MLB run, and 30-16-1, 65.2% since April 12 with side plays. You can get that for only $2 over at WagerTalk. Afternoon baseball, who doesn't love it? So Give Dan some love on $2 Thursdays over at WagerTalk. All right, so we are going to look at Andrew. Do you have anything to add on the Leaf one, or are we good?
We're good. We are good.
We're good. All right, so we're going to talk about the Rangers. This one goes on Sunday. Game 1 Sunday. The series price here is minus 140 on the Canes, plus 120 on the Rangers. But we have some other props that you can look at. And this one is handicap the spread on it. I cashed the one yesterday with the Oilers, minus 1.5, getting a little bit of plus money on a team that was minus 190 to win the series. So I was happy about that. Andrew, what sticks out for you in this one as far as this spread?
Carm, what sticks out to me is that I know New York fans are not happy with this price that they're seeing here for their team. I think they're surprised by it. We got the home team, obviously the Hurricanes. You want to talk about home ice advantage? This is a team that you need to bring up in conversation if you talk about home ice advantage, especially in the playoffs. I think that has a huge part of what the price currently is. And at multiple books, that price continues to go up. But Carm, I think you and I are on relatively the same page here. I think this series ends in 6 games. I think that Carolina Hurricanes get the job done in 6 games. You know, you take a look at this New York Rangers team, and did we really get to see a playoff series out of them? I mean, I'm not sure if I saw a playoff series out of this team over the last week and a half. I don't want to discredit their opponent, but we kind of have to here, Carm. I think one of these, I think Carolina actually got a little more of a battle out of the Islanders than the Rangers got out of the Capitals. And you look at some of the stuff that they had to deal with, being down, I think, what was it, a goal or two with 2 or 3 minutes to go. And then they end up covering the puck line on their own, facing some adversity, winning low scoring games, winning high scoring games. This Hurricanes team's the real deal. The numbers tell you they're going to go all the way, at least to the conference finals. And the big difference, I keep on saying it, Carm, is that they've always been a good defensive team. They've always been a team that can, grind out playoff style games. They pick up Kuznetsov. They pick up Gensel. They've got Aho now, Jarvis, Nietzsche. They're playing well as a collective, but they're also scoring goals. And this used to be a Hurricanes team that could only really win low-scoring games. I like the minus 1.5 games for the Carolina Hurricanes, and I think it's an appropriate price. I think that the series ends 4-2 for the Hurricanes, and you can get that as high as plus 380. So I like that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I quickly looked at the series price because it was 140 last night. It's actually 160 on the Canes. So some Canes money is coming in. And if you listen, I know you Ranger fans bleed blue. You love your team. You're getting plus 140-ish if you like them to win the series, and they have home ice in the series. So it's you normally don't see the team that doesn't have the home ice advantage laying a price like this, minus 160, Andrew. I'm of the same thought. Listen, I love the Rangers all season long. They made me money. I just think that the moves that the Canes made were moves that they made looking forward to the playoffs. They always knew they were going to make it, but they filled in some of the spots and adding a guy like Jake Gunsel. Obviously, the one where, having added Orlov, it helps their team. It made them better. They are a better team, and they're going to need to be in order to beat the Rangers. The minus 1.5 plus 120 is a good one. I like that as well too, just because I think if the Canes are to win this series, they win it in 6. Because if it goes to 7 games in New York, I would think New York is the team to beat in that one. So this has to end in 6 games, obviously, or less for this one to cash. And Andrew, I think it ends in 6 games too. You get plus 200 on it. I think when they head back to Carolina, because I don't see this being a 4-game series. I don't see it being a 5-game series. When they head back to Carolina, one of these 2 teams is going to be up 3-2. So you could take the Canes to win the series 4 games to 2 at plus 380. You could take the New York Rangers to win the series at 4 games to 2 at plus 650. And you're heading into game 6 with some plus money, and you want the series, if your team is up 3-2, you want the series to end that night and collect on that one. So I do like that one. One other, Andrew, one other futures one that I wanted to look at is the player to have the most in this series. Now, obviously, the bread man is going to be right up there as the favorite. Jay Gunsel as well too, Sebastian Aho. These are the big guns for the team. But I'm looking at two guys with double-digit prices. What are you looking at before I get into mine?
I know what yours are. I love the double digit, but Carm, I'm going to be a little bit chalky here. I'm going to go with Aho because I think his passing is underrated. He's a leader on this team. He's a guy that does so well scoring wise, but I feel like he's really stepped things up with his playmaking abilities. So I got him on a fantasy team, a fantasy playoff hockey team, and I think that for him this year, he's not just a goal scorer. He's not just a guy that's getting set up for those one-timers. He's a guy that can make the extra passes as well. As far as the New York Rangers, most points, maybe I would look at a guy like Mika Zibanejad. He's been kind of turning into more of a playmaker and not just a shooter as well. But what do you have for us?
All right. I am going with two players, double digits. First one, I'm going with when you take away that first line for the Canes, you start looking at secondary scoring for them, and they got secondary scoring against New York Islanders. But a guy like Seth Jarvis, I like Seth Jarvis, 1,400, 14-1 on him, 7 points against the Islanders in a 5-game series. You got him in 2 games, I think, 2 or 3 games of that series, but 7 points. It was a very good first round for him. And he's the type of guy that would play well against, he's, a little bit physical. He's the type of guy that's not going to get pushed around by the Rangers. So he could very well pick up points. Whether it's enough to get him that most points scored, we'll have to see. But at 14-1, you got to throw a couple slices of pizza on that one. And then since we're tossing around slices, Vincent Trocheck, plus 1,100, 6 points against in the first round, which is surprising because they had a first round bye because the Washington Capitals really didn't show up. So 6 points in the first round for him. Actually, he got his. I think Trocheck got his in 2 games as well too. Or I think it was in 2 games. But anyways, 6 points in the first round for Trocheck. He's the kind of guy for the Rangers that shows up, will get points for you. Again, whether it's enough, we'll need to see. But the fact that you're getting 11-1, it's worth a little bit of a flyer on him. So Seth Jarvis, 14-1, Vincent Trocheck, 11-1. Either one of those guys to have the most points in this series. And I'll just sit back and watch it. And if it turns out that Panarin just slices it all up, and it's a lost bet. It's a couple slices of pizza. Don't go crazy on these prop bets.
Carmen, you mentioned Seth Jarvis, 15-1 for the most shots in the series. I know power plays. You got the bread man. You've got Aho. You've got Gensel. But man, oh man, if you're looking for a nice plus price too on the shots prop, that one, because all you need is one game where he's got like 5 or 6. You give him that's a sweat right there. Taking a handful of guys to have the most shots. Of course, Gensel, Panarin, Aho, Kreider, those guys are up there. One thing I like about these, Carm, it's kind of like when I talk about when I'm betting team totals, is that you don't actually have to, like, the team that you take the player on, they don't have to necessarily be winning the series. Like, I'm a big believer. I like Carolina to win the series. I think a New York Ranger is going to have the most goals in this series because I think it's going to be a little bit more spread out for the Carolina Hurricanes. It wouldn't shock me if Chris Kreider had the most goals in the series. Wouldn't shock me if Mika Zibanejad had the most goals in the series, but Carolina ended up winning the series. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't blame you for liking those. Mika's one of the guys I love watching on the ice, Andrew. Whether he's on the bench, whether he's on the ice, the guy it just seems cool as a cucumber. He's nothing rattles the guy. They try and hit him. He just bounces back up, man. He goes out there. He knows how to find players. He knows when he's got to shoot on that power play. Um, he's just one of those players you like to have on your team, man. The guy's having a great season once again, and we'll see if they can extend it. This is going to be a good series. It's a shame, and with all due respect to the Florida Panthers, it's a shame that these two teams have to meet in the semifinals. This is why I went off on Tuesday about the seedings and needing to change the seedings. It's a shame. Maybe reseed the teams after round one of the playoffs and see how it shakes out. Because I think these two teams finished first and second, and then you had Boston and Florida. So we could very well have ended up with, hypothetically, if the Bruins win tonight, we could have ended up with the Rangers versus Florida. Or sorry, the Rangers versus Boston and Carolina versus Florida, which would have been another great series. But I hate seeing these two teams play each other because I would love to see them in the next round playing each other. It's not going to happen.
It's a shame. I mean, look at what what's going on in the Western Conference, Carm. I mean, looking at that Colorado series is going to be absolutely insane. Their matchup, I think, they're playing the winner of Vegas versus Dallas. And like I've talked about to you before, I'm not discounting the Edmonton Oilers, and I'm not discounting Vancouver or Nashville, but when you look at it, I think that the winner of that series, Colorado versus Dallas or Vegas, will probably move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's how I feel. So to me, that second round series is going to be the Western Conference Finals. Again, I like Edmonton. I'm not trying to get their fan base mad at me. I just think that those teams collectively, I think one of those teams will probably make the Western Conference Finals. Either way, though, we always say, Carm, whether the hard game comes in round 2, round 1, or the conference finals, you got to get there eventually, right?
Yeah, no, you do. And listen, we're not pissing off fan bases. If we are, that's not ever our intention. But you look at the Oilers, Andrew, and at least as far as the Oilers are concerned, what has been the question mark each and every playoff season? Their goaltending. No one can blame, no matter what happens in the next round to the Edmonton Oilers. Nobody can blame Stuart Skinner. The guy played absolutely great against the LA Kings, and the LA Kings threw pucks at him. Last night, the Kings were dominant in that first period against the Oilers, and somehow almost they came out 1-1 at the end of the first on a fluke goal that went off one of the stanchions, and he had an open net. But the guy has stood on his head this series. He's played extremely well. So we'll see what happens in the next round when he's got to play Vegas or Nashville. But there's no way to blame on Stuart Skinner, no matter what the Oilers do the rest of these NHL playoffs. And to the point of Colorado, we still don't know what was wrong with Hellebuck, if there was anything wrong with him at all. The Avalanche made him look absolutely ordinary in the playoffs. His regular season goals against average, which was 2 and change, 230-ish, something like that, ballooned to like 5+ in the playoffs. The Avs will do that, but maybe collectively that whole team didn't play very good defense against the Colorado Avalanche. So we'll see what Dallas or the Vegas Golden Knights can do against the Avs.
Your tweets were cracking me up when you were saying that. It's almost like you were Hellebuck's like good friend, and you were like, maybe he's not right. Maybe something's going on with him right now, because he did definitely look like a whole different goalie in there. But I read something that said that Colorado have scored the most goals this playoffs with a screen in front of the net, and a lot of people were saying that Winnipeg didn't have the defensemen that were strong enough to push those guys out of the front. Look at Vegas. Look how they've got like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". Their defensemen are tall. They're strong. Winnipeg didn't really have that. And if you can't push guys out of the net front, it's going to really hurt you. So Carm, I will have a prop pack up for the game tonight, Bruins versus Maple Leafs. People can get my plays, my best bets, side totals, props, anything I do get on for the Bruins and Leafs game. You can get that over at wt.buzz/am. Having success with the props right now over the last handful of days. So we'll try and keep it going with those. Looking like just one NBA play and one day baseball game for me on tap with my clients. But Carm, what do you have going today?
So a couple of games, Premier League game, one Europa League game, one baseball game that goes this afternoon. I think a 4-0 run in baseball. So we'll see if we can keep that going 3-0 or 4-0 this week in baseball. Listen, I told you this game I'm not vibing this game at all tonight, guys. If I'm putting some money on it, I'm likely going to take the over and the Nylander shot prop, but that's not certain either. I'm going to get together with some of my Leaf friends, or my friends who are Leaf fans, and watch the game with them. They're all going to be sporting their Leaf blues tonight. I'm not sure I can pick up a Bruins jersey in time for the game tonight, but regardless, I'll be cheering on the Leafs. So there you go. I'll be cheering on the Leafs because we need to see a Game 7. And Andrew, I'm going to say this. If the Leafs win Game 6, how do you not make them the pick? They're going to be an underdog, but how do you not take them in Game 7? All the momentum is on the Leafs bandwagon. I'm not jumping on it. A guy my age shouldn't be jumping.
I thought
on
you were being sarcastic, Carmen.
No. If the Leafs were to win tonight, that line on 4-game, I guess it's played on Saturday. Game on Saturday shouldn't be. It's going to be minus 150, minus 160 for the Bruins, but I think Game 7s are a coin flip, Andrew. If you haven't beaten them in 7, or you haven't beaten them in 6, there's no guarantee you're going to beat them in 7 just because you're at home. And the Leafs have won 2 or 3 in Boston. So we shall see what happens.
It's funny how that works. They've been more comfortable in the road building. We'll see how it goes tonight at home, but I'm looking forward to a great game. I do think it will be tight.
You've said it.
And again, I do have some prop
You've
plays.
said it, Andrew. You have said it. When they go on the road, they play better. You've said it. So, and true to your word, they've won 2 of 3 games in this series on the road. So against a team that they couldn't beat all season long, they couldn't beat all season in 4 games. And, even dating back to last year, they didn't have the best of a regular season against the Bruins. So kudos to you. You said if they're going to win on the road.
Carm, good luck tonight, brother. Keep the roll going that you're on. If you end up sending out some plays to clients, enjoy the time with your friends. I am actually covering a soccer team tonight, Carm. I have to write an article tonight for a local soccer team in my neck of the woods. I'll be racing home from that match to watch the rest of the Leafs and Bruins games. So keeping busy here and hoping to cash some tickets tonight as well. Guys, comment below what you are betting tonight. It's a big game, side, total, props, whatever you're on. We want to hear from you. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you next time on Puck Time.